Where were you at?
Well,
California.
I'm not in Illinois, I can tell you that for sure.
Page 436 at the bottom. Does that sound right,
Yep.
Marty?
What's the-
436 at the bottom.
Reading during the.
And not only.
And what material are you reading from on page 436? Remember, I'm not here all the time. You have to tell me what
Selected.
you're reading. What?
Selected Messages, Book 2.
Okay. What does it deal with?
It's messages of Ellen White that didn't make it in any other book, so they call them selected messages. There's 3
Oh,
volumes.
that's interesting.
Today,
Okay.
Today's reading is on disease and its causes.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll listen. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're almost to the end of book 2, another week or 2, maybe, if we're lucky. Maybe today.
So we're at the end of 436.
Bottom paragraph, and not only.
I might have to find that because I thought we started the appendix and we only read like one thing of it.
That's what we were
So
in.
I'm lost where we are.
Yeah, we're in
That's
that
in the
one.
appendix. Remember, you got all upset over what we were reading because we thought it was too terse.
Yeah,
That's a long appendix. I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost at the end of the
yeah.
diseases and its causes.
How much was left in the book when we started?
Yeah. Like I said, if we really read fast, no, there's no
Okay,
way.
where is it?
436 and not only has the physical and mental health of children been endangered.
Can you tell me a chapter?
No,
It's in the.
It's in
The appendix, it's in the appendix. Diseases
I know,
and
but
its
those are in
causes.
chapters.
2. Mark 2. No, that's selected messages too. I don't know.
I can't go back.
Appendix 1. Chapter 1. Chapter 2.
Looks like it's
So it's
chapter.
chapter 2. At the end, almost at the end, like 2
Yeah,
pages from
well.
chapter 3. Yeah. Are you in a hotel, Sandy?
Where are you reading? What does it say?
And not only has the physical and mental health of children been endangered. It's at the bottom. Well, it's not the bottom, but it's the bottom in the book. Bottom of 436.
Okay, I'll see if I can share it and get it on here. I don't know on this one. My screen's backwards. Your share is usually at the top and here it's at the bottom.
Oh dear.
Let me see.
Maybe that's because you're so far north now.
Yeah.
It switches.
Our youngest daughter was in Boise over the 4th of July.
I saw her.
Yeah, all right. They really liked it. They did some cool stuff.
They said it was really nice.
Sent us a postcard. And we talked to her about
They went on some big
tram or whatever, the mountain tram or
ride
something.
down the mountain in this
Yeah,
car.
yeah. You ready?
Oh, that's tiny to read.
I can't read it, but I'm old, so
No, even, yeah, that's hard for anybody. That's really tiny.
It seems very small.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, it's so
Even-
small I can't read it, but I've been able to read it on the other nights
Yeah,
because I use
usually-
my book anyway. I don't use that.
yeah,
but,
me neither.
Usually it's larger. Yeah.
Hmm. No. I don't know. It's on the laptop, so I'm not sure. That might be part of it.
Oh, maybe,
I don't
yeah,
know how to make it bigger.
Don't ask me.
yeah.
Ask your grandson.
Well, that's a little bigger, and then they can just hold up a magnifying
glass.
glass over it.
Let's see, to make it bigger, you push the, what's my glasses?
Probably control something.
That's as
On
big
the
as I can.
keyboard, you push Central, Alt, and then on your mouse, you use that roller.
That's a little bigger,
Yeah,
but
that's bigger.
you can't go much bigger, you'll lose it on the screen.
But it should automatically fit for the screen.
Yeah.
What did you say to do? Alt what?
Alt Control on your on the keyboard, and then take the mouse and the roller and do the roller on there while you're
Okay, that
holding the
didn't-
Alt Control.
Yeah, that doesn't do it on my laptop, so
Yeah.
this is as good as it can be. If it's too small, just take it off.
Well, just listen. As
Get a
long
magnifying.
as Sandy can read it, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
When it's her turn.
Okay,
They were on everywhere.
yes.
Okay, let's pray. Blessed are you, Yahuwah Elohim, creator of the universe. Thank you for this day, for getting us together, for the blessings we're about to get from reading your word. Be with us and help us to apply it and share it with others. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen. And not only has the physical and mental health of children been endangered by being sent to school at too early a period, but they have been the losers in a moral point of view. They have had opportunities to become acquainted with children who are uncultivated in their manners.
I wonder who lost.
Are you there, Sandy?
Are we still on?
Sandy?
Yes, it's not working. I'm gonna turn
Oh,
it off
okay.
and-
Okay,
and
'cause
just,
we
I-
you
thought
guys read.
I
it
was
just
thinking-
I
said
did- I
Zoom
can
up
do
there.
it.
I
oh, maybe
thought
we got cut
oh,
off.
maybe we cut it off.
No,
Okay.
Okay.
They've had opportunities to become acquainted with children who were uncultivated in their manners. They were thrown into the society of the coarse and rough, who lie, swear, steal, and deceive, and who delight to impart their knowledge of vice to those younger than themselves. Young children, if left to themselves, learn the bad more readily than the good. Bad habits agree best with the natural heart, and the things which they see and hear in infancy and childhood are deeply imprinted upon their minds, and the bad seed sown in their young hearts will take root and will become sharp thorns to wound the hearts of their parents. During the first 6 or 7 years of a child's life, special attention should be given to its physical training rather than the intellect. After this period, if the physical constitution is good, the education of both should receive attention. Infancy extends to the age of 6 or 7 years. Up to this period, children should be left like little lambs to roam around the house and in the yards in the buoyancy of their spirits, skipping and jumping free from care and trouble. Parents, especially mothers, should be the only teachers of such infant minds. They should not educate from books. The children generally will be inquisitive to learn the things of nature. They will ask questions in regard to the things they see and hear, and parents should improve the opportunity to instruct and patiently answer these little inquiries. They can, in this manner, get the advantage of the enemy and fortify the minds of their children by sowing good seed in their hearts, leaving no room for the bad to take root. The mother's loving instructions at a tender age is what is needed by children in the formation of character. The first and important lesson for children to learn is the proper denial of appetite. It is the duty of mothers to attend to the wants of their children by soothing and diverting their minds instead of giving them food, and thus teaching them that eating is the remedy for life's ills. If parents had lived healthfully, being satisfied with simple diet, much expense would have been saved. The father would not have been obliged to labor beyond his strength in order to supply the wants of his family. A simple, nourishing diet would not have had an influence to unduly excite the nervous system and the animal passions, producing moroseness and irritability. If he had partaken only of plain food, his head would have been clear, his nerves steady, his stomach in a healthy condition, and with a pure system, he would have had no loss of appetite, and the present generation would be in a much better condition than it now is. But even now, in this late period, something can be done to improve our conditions. Temperance in all things is necessary. A temperate father will not complain if he has no great variety upon his table. A healthful manner of living will improve the condition of the family in every sense, and will allow the wife and mother time to devote to her children. The great study with the parents will be in what manner can they best train their children for usefulness in this world and for heaven hereafter. They will be content to see their children with neat, plain, but comfortable garments free from embroidery and adornment. They will earnestly labor to see their children in the possession of the inward adorning, the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of Yahuwah of great price. Before the Christian father leaves his home to go to his labor, he will gather his family around him, and bowing before Yahuwah will commit them to the care of the chief shepherd. He will then go forth to his labor with the love and blessing of his wife and the love of his children, to make his heart cheerful through his laboring hours. And that mother who is aroused to her duty realizes the obligation resting upon her to her children in the absence of the father. She will feel that she lives for her husband and children. By training her children aright, teaching them habits of temperance and self-control, and in teaching them their duty to Yahuwah, she is qualifying them to become useful in the world, to elevate the standard of morals in society, and to reverence and obey the law of Yahuwah. Patiently and perseveringly will the godly mother instruct her children, giving them line upon line and precept upon precept, not in a harsh, compelling manner, but in love and in tenderness will she win them. They will consider her lessons of love and will happily listen to her words of instruction. Instead of sending her children from her presence, that she may not be troubled with their noise and be annoyed with the numerous attentions they would desire, she will feel that her time cannot be better employed than in soothing and diverting their restless, active minds with some amusement or light, happy employment. The mother will be amply repaid for her efforts in taking time to invent amusements for her children. Young children love society. They cannot, as a general thing, enjoy themselves alone, and the mother should feel that in most cases, the places for her children when they are in the house is in the room she occupies. She can then have a personal oversight of them and be prepared to set little differences right when appealed to by them and correct wrong habits or the manifestation of selfishness or passion, and can give their minds a turn in the right direction. That which children enjoy, they think mother can be pleased with, and it is perfectly natural for them to consult mother in little matters of perplexity. And the mother should not wound the heart of her sensitive child by treating the matter with indifference or by refusing to be troubled with such small matters. That which may be small to the mother is large to them, and a word of direction or caution at the right time will often prove of great value. An approving glance, a word of encouragement, and praise from the mother will often cast a sunbeam into their young hearts for a whole day. The first education children should receive from the mother in infancy should be in regard to their physical health. They should be allowed only plain food of that quality that would preserve to them the best conditions of health, and that should be partaken of only at regular periods, not oftener than 3 times a day, and 2 meals would be better than 3. If children are disciplined aright, they will soon learn that they can receive nothing by crying or fretting. A judicious mother will act in training her children, not merely in regard to her own present comfort, but for their future good. And to this end, she will teach her children the important lesson of controlling the appetite and of self-denial, that they should eat, drink, and dress in reference to health. A well-disciplined family who love and obey Yahuwah will be cheerful and happy. The father, when he returns from his daily labor, will not bring his perplexities to his home. He'll feel that home and the family circle are too sacred to be marred with unhappy perplexities. When he left his home, he did not leave his Savior and his religion behind. Both were his companions. The sweet influence of his home, the blessing of his wife, and the love of his children make his burdens light, and he returns with peace in his heart and cheerful, encouraging words for his wife and children, who are waiting to joyfully welcome his coming. As he bows with his family at the altar of prayer to offer up his grateful thanks to Yahuwah for his preserving care of himself and loved ones throughout the day, angels of Yahuwah hover in the room and bear the fervent prayers of Yahuwah-fearing parents to heaven as sweet incense, which are answered by returning blessings. Parents should impress upon their children that it is a sin to consult the taste to the injury of the stomach. They should impress upon their minds that by violating the laws of their being, they sin against their Maker. Children thus educated will not be difficult of restraint. They will not be subject to irritable, changeable tempers, and will be in a far better condition of enjoying life. Such children will the more readily and clearly understand their moral obligations. Children who have been taught to yield their will and wishes to their parents will the more easily and readily yield their wills to Yahuwah, and will submit to be controlled by the Spirit of Messiah. Why so many who claim to be Christians have numerous trials which keep the church burdened is because they have not been correctly trained in their childhood and were left in a great measure to form their own character. Their wrong habits and peculiar unhappy dispositions were not corrected. They were not taught to yield their will to their parents. Their whole religious experience is affected by their training in childhood. They were not then controlled. They grew up undisciplined, and now, in their religious experience, it is difficult for them to yield to that pure discipline taught in the word of Yahuwah. Parents should then realize the responsibility resting upon them to educate their children in reference to their religious experience.
Those who regard the marriage relation as one of Yahuwah's sacred ordinances, guarded by his holy precept, will be controlled by the dictates of reason. They will consider carefully the result of every privilege the marriage relation grants. She will feel that their children are precious jewels committed to their keeping by Yahuwah, to remove from their natures the rough surface by discipline, that their luster may appear. They will feel under most solemn obligations to so form their characters that they may do good in their life, bless others with their light, and the world be better for their having lived in it, and they be finally fitted for the higher life, the better world, to shine in the presence of Yahuwah and the Lamb forever. Chapter 3. The human family have brought upon themselves diseases of various forms by their own wrong habits. They have not studied how to live healthfully, and their transgressions of the laws of their being has produced a deplorable state of things. The people have seldom accredited their sufferings to the true cause, their own wrong course of action. They have indulged in intemperance in eating and made a god of their appetite. In all their habits, they have manifested a recklessness in regard to health and life. And when, as the result, sickness has come upon them, they have made themselves believe that Yahuwah was the author of it, when their own wrong course of action has brought the sure result. When in distress, they send for the doctor and trust their bodies in his hand, expecting that he will make them well. He deals out to them drugs, the nature of which they know nothing, and in their blind confidence, they swallow anything that the doctor may choose to give. Thus, powerful poisons are often administered, which fetter nature in all her friendly efforts to recover the abuse the system has suffered, and the patient is hurried out of this life. The mother who has been but slightly indisposed, and who might have recovered by abstinence from food for a short period, and a cessation from labor, having quiet and rest, has instead of doing this sent for a physician. And he who should be prepared to understandingly give a few simple directions and restrictions in diet and place her upon the right track is either too ignorant to this or too anxious to obtain a fee. He makes the case a grave one and administers his poisons, which, if he were sick, he would not venture to take himself. The patient grows worse, and poisonous drugs are more freely administered until nature is overpowered in her efforts and gives up the conflict, and the mother dies. She was drugged to death. Her system was poisoned beyond remedy. She was murdered. Neighbors and relatives marvel at the wonderful dealings of Providence in thus removing a mother in the midst of her usefulness, at the period when her children need her care so much. They wrong our good and wise Heavenly Father when they cast back upon him this weight of human woe. Heaven wished that mother to live, and her untimely death dishonored Yahuwah. The mother's wrong habits and her inattentiveness to the laws of her being made her sick, and the doctor's fashionable poisons introduced into the system closed the period of her existence and left a helpless, stricken, motherless flock. The above is not always the result which follows the doctor's drugging. Sick people who take these drug poisons do appear to get well. With some, there is sufficient life force for nature to draw upon to so far expel the poison from the system that the sick, having a period of rest, recover. But no credit should be allowed the drugs taken, for they only hindered nature in her efforts. All the credit should be ascribed to nature's restorative powers. Although the patient may recover, yet the powerful effort nature was required to make to induce action to overcome the poison injured the constitution and shortened the life of the patient. There are many who do not die under the influence of drugs, but there are very many who are left useless wrecks, homeless, gloomy, and miserable sufferers, a burden to themselves and to society. If those who take these drugs were alone the sufferers, then the evil would not be as great. But parents not only sin against themselves in swallowing drug poisons, but they sin against their children. The vitiative state of their blood, the poison distributed throughout the system, the broken constitution, and various drug diseases as the result of drug poisons are transmitted to their offspring and left them as a wretched inheritance, which is another great cause of degeneracy of the race. Physicians, by administering their drug poisons, have done very much to increase the depreciation of the race, physically, mentally, and morally. Everywhere you may go, you will see deformity, disease, and imbecility, which in very many cases can be traced directly back to the drug poisons administered by the hand of a doctor as a remedy for some of life's ill. The so-called remedy has fearfully proved itself to the patient by stern suffering experience to be far worse than the diseases for which the drug was taken. All who possess common capabilities should understand the wants of their own system. The philosophy of health should compose one of the important studies for our own children. It is all important that the human organism be understood, and then intelligent men and women can be their own physicians. If the people would reason from cause to effect and would follow the light which shines upon them. They would pursue a course which would ensure health, and mortality would be far less. But the people are too willing to remain in inexcusable ignorance and trust their bodies to the doctors instead of having any special responsibility in the matter themselves. Several illustrations of this great subject have been presented before me. The first was a family consisting of a father and daughter. The daughter was sick, and the father was much troubled on her account, and summoned a physician. As the father conducted him into the sick room, he manifested a painful anxiety. The physician examined the patient and said but little. They both left the sick room. Father informed the physician that he had buried the mother, a son, and daughter, and this daughter was all that was left to him of his family. He anxiously inquired of the physician if he thought his daughter's case was hopeless. The physician then inquired in regard to the nature and length of the sickness of those who had died. The father mournfully related the painful facts connected with the illness of his loved ones. My son was first attacked with a fever. I called a physician. He said that he could administer medicine which would soon break the fever. He gave him powerful medicine, but was disappointed in its effects. The fever was reduced, but my son grew dangerously sick. The same medicine was again given him without producing any change for the better. The physician then resorted to still more powerful medicines, but my son obtained no relief. The fever left him, but he did not rally. He sank rapidly and died. Okay, Keith?
The death of my son so suddenly and unexpectedly was a great relief to us all, but especially to his mother. Her watching and anxiety in his sickness and her grief occasioned by his sudden death were too much for her nervous system, and my wife was soon prostrated. I felt dissatisfied with the course pursued by this physician. My confidence in his skills was shaken, and I could not employ him a second time. I called another to my suffering wife. The second physician gave her a liberal dose of opium, which he said would relieve her pains, quiet her nerves, and give her rest, which she much needed. The opium stupefied her. She slept, and nothing could arouse her from this death-like stupor. Her pulse and heart at times throbbed violently, and then grew more and more feeble in their action until she ceased to breathe. Thus she died without giving her family one look of recognition. The second death seemed more than we could endure. We all sorrowed deeply, but I was agonized and could not be comforted. My daughter was next afflicted. Grief, anxiety, and watching had overtaken her powers of endurance, and her strength gave way, and she was brought upon a bed of suffering. I have now lost confidence in both the physicians that I had employed. Another physician was recommended to me as being successful in treating the sick. And although he lived at a distance, I was determined to obtain his services. This third physician professed to understand my daughter's case. He said that she was greatly debilitated and that her nervous system was deranged and that fever was upon her, which could be controlled, but that it would take time to bring her up from her present state of debility. He expressed perfect confidence in his ability to raise her. He gave her powerful medicine to break up the fever. This was accomplished, but as the fever left, the case assumed more alarming features and grew more complicated as the symptoms changed. The medicines were varied to meet the case. While under the influence of new medicines, she would, for a time, appear revived, which would flatter our hopes that she would get well, only to make our disappointment more bitter as she became worse. The physician's last resort was calomel, For some time, she had seemed to be between life and death. She was thrown into convulsions. As these most distressful spasms ceased, we were roused to the painful fact that her intellect was weakened. She began slowly to improve, although still a great sufferer. Her limbs were crippled as the effect of the powerful poisons which she had taken. She lingered a few years, a helpless, pitiful sufferer, and died in much agony. After this sad relation, father looked imploringly to the physician and entreated him to save his only remaining child. The physician looked sad and anxious, but made no prescription. He arose to leave, saying that he would call the next day. Another scene was then presented before me. I was brought into the presence of a female, apparently about 30 years of age. A physician was standing by her and reporting that her nervous system was deranged, that her blood was impure and moved sluggishly, and that her stomach was in a cold, inactive condition. He said that he would give her active remedies, which would soon improve her condition. He gave her a powder from a vial upon which was written, Nux vomica. I watched to see what effect this would have upon the patient. It appeared to act favorably. Her condition seemed better. She was animated and even seemed cheerful and active. My attention was then called still to another case. I was introduced into the sick room of a young man who was in a high fever. A physician was starting by the bedside of the sufferer with a portion of medicine taken from a vial upon which was written calomel. He administered this chemical poison, and a change seemed to take place, but not for the better. I was then shown still another case, was that of a female who seemed to be suffering much pain. A physician stood by the bedside of the patient and was administering medicine taken from a vial upon which was written opium. At first, this drug seemed to affect the mind. She talked strangely, but finally became quiet and slept. My attention was then called to the first case, that of the father who had lost his wife and 2 children. The physician was in the sick room, standing by the bedside of the afflicted daughter. Again, he left the room without giving medicine. The father, when in the presence of the physician alone, seemed deeply moved when he inquired impatiently, do you intend to do nothing? Will you leave my only daughter to die? The physician said, I have listened to the sad history of the death of your much loved wife and your 2 children, and I've learned from your own lips that all 3 have died while in the care of a physician, while taking medicine prescribed and administered by their hands. Medicine has not saved your loved ones, and as a physician, I solemnly believe that none of them need or ought to have died. They could have recovered if you had not been so drugged that nature was enfeebled by abuse. And finally, crushed, he stated decidedly to the agitated father, I cannot give medicine to your daughter. I shall only seek to assist nature in her efforts by removing every obstruction and then leaving nature to recover the exhausted energies of the system. He placed in the father's hand a few directions which he enjoined upon him to follow closely. Keep the patient free from excitement and every influence calculated to depress. Her attendants should be cheerfully and hopeful. She should have a simple diet and should be allowed plenty of pure soft water to drink. Bathe frequently in pure soft water, followed by gentle rubbing. Let the light and air be freely admitted into her room. She must have quiet and undisturbed rest. The father slowly read the prescription and wondered at a few simple directions it contained and seemed doubtful of any good resulting from such simple means. Said the physician, you have had sufficient confidence in my skills to place the life of your daughter in my hands. Withdraw not your confidence. I will visit your daughter daily and direct you in the management of her case. Follow my directions with confidence, and I trust in a few weeks to present her to you in much better condition of health, if not fully restored. The father looked sad and doubtful, but submitted to the decision of the physician. He feared that his daughter might die if she had no medicine. The second case was again prescribed before me. The patient had appeared better under the influence of Nux vomica. She was sitting up, folding a shawl closely around her and complaining of chilliness. The air in the room was impure. It was heated and had lost its vitality. Almost every crevice where the pure air could enter was guarded to protect the patient from a sense of painful chilliness, which was especially felt in the back of the neck and down the spinal column. If the door was left ajar, she seemed nervous and distressed and entreated that it should be closed, for she was cold. She could not bear the least draught of air from the door or windows. A gentleman of intelligence stood looking pitifully upon her and said to those present,
Okay,
This is the-
Marty,
This is the second result of Nux vomica. It is especially felt upon the nerves, and it affects the whole nervous system. There will be for a time increased forced action upon the nerves. But as the strength of this drug is spent, there will be chilliness and protracting
prostate.
just to that degree that it excites and enlivens will be the deadening, benumbing results following. The third case was again presented before me. It was that of the young man to whom was administered Columel. He was a great sufferer. His lips were dark and swollen. His gums were inflamed. His tongue was thick and swollen, and the saliva was running from his mouth in large quantities. The intelligent gentleman before mentioned looked sadly upon the sufferer and said, "This is the influence of merciful preparations."
Material.
This young man had remaining sufficient nervous energy to commence a warfare upon this intruder. This drug poison to attempt to expel it from the system. Many have not sufficient life forces left to arouse to action, and nature is overpowered and ceases her efforts, and the victim dies. The fourth case, the person to whom was given opium, was again presented before me. She had awakened from her sleep, much prostrated. Her mind was distracted. She was impatient and irritable, finding fault with her best friends and imagining that they did not try to relieve her suffering. She became frantic and raved like a maniac. The gentleman before mentioned looked sadly upon the sufferer and said to those present, "This is the second result from taking opium." Her physician was called. He gave her an increased dose of opium, which quieted her ravings, yet made her very talkative and cheerful. She was at peace with all around her and expressed much affliction for acquaintances as well as her relatives. She soon grew drowsy and fell into a stupefied condition. The gentleman mentioned above solemnly said, her conditions of health are no better now than when she was in her frantic ravings. She is decidedly worse. This drug poison, opium, given temporary relief from pain, but does not remove the cause of pain. It only stupefies the brain, rendering it incapable of receiving impressions from the nerves. While the brain is thus insensible, the hearing, the taste and sight are affected. With the influence of opium wears off and the brain arouses from its state of paralysis, the nerves which had been cut off from communication with the brain shriek out louder than ever. The pain is in the system because of the additional outrage the system has sustained in receiving this poison. Every additional drug given to the patient, whether it be opium or some other poison, will contemplate the case and make the patient's recovery more hopeless. The drugs given to stupefy, whatever they may be, derange the nervous system, and evil simple in the beginning, which nature aroused herself to overcome, and which she would have done had she been left to herself. This has been made tenfold worse by drug poisons being introduced into the system, which is a destructive disease of itself, forcing into extraordinary action the remaining life forces to war against the overcome of drug intruder. You know, God gave us herbs to use, but now doctors use all these drugs, and I don't know if it's just Bakersfield, Kern County, or the whole state of California, but I know here in Bakersfield, they are not allowed to practice herbal medicine. They have to practice Western medicine, which means it has to be drugs. Of course, that just stuffs their pockets, which they cannot do off of herbs. I was brought.
Study yourself and know what herbs to take for it.
Pardon?
That's why you need to study herbs yourself and know what herbs to use.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, the doctor I have, which I extremely rarely go to him, he will not put you on anything he doesn't absolutely have to. And if he has something he has to, then he gets you off of it as quickly as possible, which cannot be said for most doctors.
Right.
I was brought again into the sick room of the first case, that of the father and his daughter. The daughter was sitting by the side of her father, cheerful and happy, with a glow of health upon her countenance. The father was looking upon her with happy satisfaction, his countenance speaking the gratitude of his heart that his only child was spared to him. Her physician entered, and after conversing with the father and child for a short time, arose to leave. He addressed the father thus: I present to you your daughter restored to health. I gave her no medicine that I might leave her with an unbroken constitution. Medicine never could have accomplished this. Medicine dangers nature's fine machinery and breaks down the constitution and kills, but never cures.
Right.
Nature alone possesses the restorative powers. She alone can build up her exhausted energies and repair the injuries she has received by attention to her fixed laws. He then asked the father if he was satisfied with his manner of treatment. The happy father expressed his heartfelt gratitude and perfect satisfaction, saying, I have learned a lesson I shall never forget. It was painful, yet it is the priceless value. I am now convinced that my wife and children need not have died. Their lives were sacrificed while in the hands of physicians by their poisonous drugs. Oh, excuse me. It was then shown the second case, the patient to whom Naloxone had been administered. She was being supported by two attendants from her chair to her bed. She had nearly lost the use of her limbs. The spinal nerves were partially paralyzed, and the limbs had lost their power to beat the weight of the person, to bear the weight of the person. She coughed distressingly and breathed with difficulty. She was laid upon the bed and soon lost her hearing and seeing, and thus she lingered a while and died. The gentleman before mentioned looked sorrowfully upon the lifeless body and said to those present, "Witness the mildest and protracted influence of Nox vomica upon the human system. At its introduction, the nervous energy was excited to extraordinary action to meet with the drug poison. This extra excitement was followed by procrastination, and the final result has been paralysis of the nerves. This drug does not have the same effect upon all. Some who have powerful constitutions can recover from abuses to which they may subject the system, while others whose hold of the life is not as strong, who possess enfeebled constitutions, have never recovered from receiving into the system even one dose, and many die from no other cause than the effects of one portion of this poison. Its effects are always tending to death. The condition the system is in at the time these poisons are received into it determine the life of the patient. Nox vomica can cripple, paralyze,
Paralyzed.
destroy health forever, but it never cures.
Okay, Sandy.
Okay. Where'd it go? The third case was again presented before me, that of the young man to whom had been administered calomel. He was a pitiful sufferer. His limbs were crippled and he was greatly deformed. He stated that his sufferings were beyond description and life was to him a great burden. The gentleman whom I have repeatedly mentioned looked upon the sufferer with sadness and pity and said, "This is the effect of calomel. It torments the system as long as there is a particle left in it. It ever lives, not losing its properties by its long stay in the living system. It inflames the joints and often sends rottenness into the bones. It frequently manifests itself in tumors, ulcers, and cancers years after it has been introduced into the system." I wonder what that stuff is.
Yeah.
The
Well,
fourth case,
some of the drugs they give you, it takes as much as 18 months for it to get out of your system after you've quit it altogether.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it
well,
up
I'll tell you
later.
what, when I had open heart surgery, I am very grateful that they had pain meds and I'm
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for everything, but some of these really sound like the doctors were, of course, it was old time. The fourth case was again presented before me, the patient to whom opium had been administered. Her countenance was sallow and her eyes were restless and glassy. Her hands shook as if palsied, and she seemed to be greatly excited, imagining that all present were leagued against her. Her mind was a complete wreck, and she raved in a pitiful manner. The physician was summoned and seemed to be unmoved at the terrible exhibitions. He gave the patient a more powerful portion of opium, which he said would set her all right. Her ravings did not cease until she became thoroughly intoxicated. She then passed into a death-like stupor. The gentleman mentioned looked upon the patient and said sadly, "Her days are numbered. The efforts nature has made have been so many times overpowered by this poison that the vital forces are exhausted by being repeatedly induced to unnatural action to rid the system of this poisonous drug. Nature's efforts are about to cease, and then the patient's suffering life will end." Now, this reminds me of, it was probably when I was younger. I don't remember them, But when they talk about the people that were in the asylums, and a lot of them were, normal people, they didn't have really anything wrong. They were just, maybe they were depressed or whatever. And instead of helping them get over it, they gave them those things, they did stuff to their brain and shocked them. And
Yeah.
every time they did it, it made them worse and worse until they ended up dying or going crazy and they thought they were insane.
Yep.
It's really sad. Let's see. More deaths have been caused by drug taking than from all other causes combined. If there was in the land one physician in the place of thousands, a vast amount of premature mortality would be prevented. Multitudes of physicians and multitudes of drugs have cursed the inhabitants of the earth and have carried thousands and tens of thousands to ultimate untimely graves. And this was way back in the day, you can imagine now. Indulging in eating too frequently and in too large quantities overtaxes the digestive organs and produces a feverish state of the system. The blood becomes impure, and then diseases of various kinds occur. A physician is sent for who prescribes some drug which gives present relief, but which does not cure the disease. It may change the form of the disease, but the real evil is increased tenfold. Nature was doing her best to rid the system of an accumulation of impurities, and could she have been left to herself, aided by the common blessings of heaven, such as pure air and pure water, a speedy and safe cure would have been effected. The sufferers in such cases can do for themselves that which others cannot do as well for them. They should commence to relieve nature of the load they have forced upon her. They should remove the cause, fast a short time, and give the stomach a chance to rest. Reduce the feverish state of the system by a careful and understanding application of water. These efforts will help nature in her struggles to free the system of impurities, but generally the persons who suffer pain become impatient. They are not willing to use self-denial and suffer a little from hunger. Neither are they willing to wait the slow process of nature to build up the overtaxed energies of the system. But they are determined to obtain relief at once and take powerful drugs prescribed by physicians. Nature was doing her work well and would have triumphed, but while accomplishing her task, a foreign substance of a poisonous nature was introduced. What a mistake. Abused nature has now two evils to war against instead of one. She leaves the work in which she was engaged and resolutely takes hold to expel the intruder newly introduced into the system. Nature feels this double draft upon her resources and she becomes enfeebled. Drugs never cure the disease. They only change the form and location. Nature alone is the effectual restorer, and how much better could she perform her life if left to herself. But this privilege is seldom allowed her. If crippled nature bears up under the load and finally accomplishes in a great measure her double task, and the patient lives, the credit is given to the physician. But if nature fails in her effort to expel the poison from the system and the patient dies, it is called the wonderful dispensation of providence. If the patient has taken a course to relieve overburdened nature in season and understandingly used pure soft water, this dispensation of drug mortality might have been wholly averted. The use of water can accomplish but little if the patient does not feel the necessity of also strictly attending to his diet. Many are living in a violation of the laws of health and are ignorant to the relation their habits of eating, drinking, and working sustain to their health. They will not arouse to their true condition until nature protests against the abuses she is suffering. By aches and pains in the system, if even then the sufferers would only commence the work right and would resort to the simple means they have neglected, the use of water and proper diet, nature would have just the help she requires and which she ought to have had long before. If this course is pursued, the patient will generally recover without being debilitated. When drugs are introduced into the system, for a time, they may seem to have a beneficial effect. A change may take place, but the disease is not cured. It will manifest itself in some other form. In nature's efforts to expel the drug from the system, intense suffering is sometimes caused the patient, and the disease which the drug was given to cure may disappear, but only to reappear in a new form, such as skin diseases, ulcers, painful diseased joints, and sometimes in a more dangerous and deadly form. The liver, heart, and brain are frequently affected by drugs, and often all these organs are burdened with disease. And the unfortunate subjects, if they live, are invalids for life, wearily dragging out a miserable existence. Oh, how much that poisonous drug cost! If it did not cost the life, it cost quite too much. Nature has been crippled in all her efforts. The whole machinery is out of order, and at a future period in life, when these fine works which have been injured are to be relied upon to act a more important part in union with all the fine works of nature's machinery, they cannot readily and strongly perform their labor, and the whole system feels the lack. These organs, which should be in a healthy condition, are enfeebled. The blood becomes impure. Nature keeps struggling, and the patient suffers with different ailments until there is a sudden breaking down in her efforts, and death follows. There are more who die from the use of drugs than all who would have died of disease had nature been left to do her own work.
Do you want to stop there?
Yeah, there's quite a bit left, so we can stop there. You guys remember where it is?
Yeah.
No.
I'm-
Bookmark it.
Yeah.
That's what happens with books. You can just put a bookmark in.
That's, there you go.
You know,
Yeah,
some of
that's
the drugs
amazing
that she
stuff.
talks about aren't used today, but there's still a lot of strong ones out there. And what she says is drugs don't cure. And that is so true. They do not cure the diabetes drugs. They don't cure diabetes. They just make it a little more manageable. If
Right.
instead of watching your diet,
They do
Um,
something that just diet and, regular fasting and whatever, watching what you eat.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
All
There's a
you
lot
gotta
of
do
people
is
that
watch
have
the
that.
commercials and look at the side effects at the bottom.
I know.
Yep.
When they,
Yep.
when
And they always do that. When they repeat it, it's really fast.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
You
And
know,
they're
da, 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 and I'm like, excuse me, if I would
I'm
do
like,
what?
if you really listen, I'm like, why would you take that with all those side effects?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so
things haven't changed too much.
no, only
No.
that we don't have, we don't use the opium.
No, but instead of
those
opium,
other-
we do,
I have never heard of that calomel, so that must have been
Google it.
something strong.
But
And
instead
then
of
that
opium,
next,
we now use morphine,
Yeah,
because I remember my mother at the end, they gave her morphine. Basically, it kills you.
yeah,
When I
Mhm.
get,
Yeah.
I told my brother, as soon as they give her morphine, it's over.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
sure enough, they gave her the morphine, and in a day or so, she was dead.
yeah.
I mean, that's what
But see,
morphine
some of
does.
it, I don't know. If somebody is in a lot of pain and they're dying, if you give them something for the pain and they die, at least they didn't have pain.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
agree.
there's good to some things, and you have to, I'm not gonna just say every time someone gets it, but, and again, when I had my surgery, and when you had yours, I'm sure they gave you pain meds, and it was a good thing, because it hurts.
Oh, that's for sure. I was very
To
glad to
get
have
off of
them.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
But-
actually
but
gave
you
me
just-
one.
But
I'm allergic to stuff, and they gave me, started with a U, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I was taking it, and when we moved, as soon as I had my heart surgery, that was in the end of July, and Christopher's birthday is the end of August, we were already driving, and I had a stick shift, and I had just had open heart surgery, so I was all,
Oh,
a
wow.
mess. And I asked the doctor, can I drive that way, or do I need, and he goes, if it doesn't hurt, and I was like, okay, whatever. But anyway, so I did, and it would hurt. And I was taking those meds, not realizing, because they said, well, this isn't like morphine or, whatever they give you for heavy pain.
Yeah.
He says, you'll be fine. So I didn't think about it. I didn't ask him if I could drive, didn't think about it. So I just kept taking these.
Wow.
And on the way, though, I would still get very, very sore. He drove and helped more than the other one. But anyway, we would all had cars. So he would stop and we would stay somewhere overnight. And then the next day we would go again. And when I got to California, I was like, I don't really think I need these. I'm doing okay, and I'm exercising and I'm feeling okay. So I quit.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, I thought I was literally gonna die. And it wasn't from pain. I felt I
Withdrawal.
would call it like a
Oh.
sick high, an extremely sick high, like I was overdosing on something, like I was just, I felt horrible. My head, everything was messed up. And it wasn't really pain. It was just, it was like I was ODing on drugs or something. My head was a mess. So
Wow.
I called the doctor's office and they said, well, you're still taking, I think it was Ultron, maybe it was Ultron. I said, well, no, I quit. And he goes, well, how did you quit? And I said, well, I just didn't think I needed it. And they said, you can't do that. You have to do it slowly. So I had to immediately take it again. And then, within a week or so, I was off of it. And then as soon as I took one, my head was normal, everything was fine, but it was a
Wow.
withdrawal coming off of it. And I
Yeah.
did not know it was that strong of a drug.
Yeah.
So, but once I did and I was off it, I was fine. And I took aspirin or something if it hurt, but I didn't do too bad. But it's pretty painful though when you move, and
Mhm.
Well, I
Yep.
get, the next Vomica is a plant commonly known by the name poison nut of the family Loganaceae. And it's in China, West Indies, Burma, and Australia. And it has many uses, but when you go down the clinical indications, it looks like it's mostly given most effectively for people with constipation.
Oh, really?
And what drug is that?
The next Vomica.
Next
Oh, really?
Vomica. But the name of it is poison nut. So when she says it's a poison, that's another name for it.
Yep.
I figured
That
it-
can tell you something right there.
I figured it
Yep.
was something that would induce vomiting just by the
Yeah.
Vomica part.
yeah, that's what I was thinking of with the name.
So what's the other
So
one?
that's weird.
Calomel?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
those
haven't looked that one
people,
up.
those people in the stories, I feel like it was back then. And people didn't get outside and people now get depressed if they're not in the sun. A lot of
Yeah.
people have that SAD or whatever it's called. And my brother-in-law's one. They said he gets sad. I've had other people that I know. And especially in Seattle, there were a lot of people when I lived in
Yeah.
Seattle that had
Yeah.
it because it was always cloudy.
So
And it
cloudy.
could be that they had something like that. And then with the grief of losing someone, they just
Yeah.
went down and instead of giving them sunshine and waking them up, you can even buy lights
Well-
that are sun lights that give you light that mimics it if you're in a dark
I
area.
heard they cut off the fresh air. They closed the room.
Yeah.
They
Right.
they
And
were
then
in
they
the
were
dark.
they were still depressed because nothing happened. And it's like, and they just got worse and worse. And then with the drugs, they were just,
What do we do in
I mean-
hospitals now or in nursing homes? We lock them up in a room, make
Yeah.
sure the windows can't be opened,
Yep.
control the environment. Not much different.
No.
yeah.
And then we wonder why they die. Gee,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
What could it be?
Polymel is a mercury chloride mineral.
Oh, well,
With- and
mercury.
it gives
there
a
tells you right
formula.
there.
It was used as medicine from the 16th to the earliest 20th century, despite frequently causing mercury poisoning in patients.
Yeah. Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's mercury and salt?
Put
That's
mercury in
weird.
Your body.
How
That-
many of you guys, when you were young, those little thermometers with the mercury in
Uh-huh.
them? How
Yeah.
many of you broke those so that you could play with it?
Not to play with
You
it.
played with it.
When I broke them, I've dropped them and
Yeah.
saw the mercury bubble up
But
all
wait-
over.
Did you play with
But
it?
you never held it and played with it?
No,
Oh,
we
I
did,
knew it
we
wasn't
did.
good.
We did, yeah.
Did you really?
They just kind of roll around. You don't know it's going to do anything. It's like, well,
Uh-huh.
it's probably no worse than stuff
Mhm.
that you get that you eat that has mercury in it. But anyway, I think about that, but that's not like tons of mercury and
But still, all the vaccines generally have mercury in them.
Yeah. That's what's so bad
That's
about
right.
vaccines.
yeah.
Why?
And one of
they do that?
one of the things about mercury is when mercury gets in your body, it's very difficult to get it out.
It's almost
Yeah.
Right.
impossible.
Right. Right.
That's why all the
Right.
It's
people,
impossible. It just
Yeah.
A
doesn't.
lot of people say it goes to the brain and
Yeah.
the different things with
Me, that's why so
aluminum.
many children are having these, what do you call it? What the,
Autistic and
autism.
everything.
because they're given so much mercury in all these vaccines they have to take now. It's ridiculous.
And then with what the church did, and some people are like, don't make them do that, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna say this, and I know we're on live, but I personally think they felt they had to because the government was saying to, and they
Yep.
get lots of
they
money
bowed
from the
down to the
government.
god of
That's what
money.
they did. They bowed down to the
And
government.
people used to get upset with me, and I'm like, we don't take anything from them, and I never will.
No,
we get by with what people send us and we do just fine. God blesses us and I'm not gonna take anything from anybody.
yeah,
But it's crazy.
Unfortunately, like that, whatever vaccine, the long-term effects are still with us. There's still people dying from it.
yeah,
Yep.
And
And you
it's-
see a lot of people on the news, young ones and stuff that are dying. It's like,
yeah,
and everybody all through the comments, did they get that jab? And I'm like, I don't know if it was that. And a lot of them are suicide that weren't before. And I really think that's part of an effect
I do.
Oh, go
Yeah,
on.
definitely.
because it just does something to your mind. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's pretty sad, but
Well, that's what Ellen White
Yeah.
was saying here with this other stuff. It went to their mind and enfeebled them. And it's not much different today when you think about
Yep.
all the drugs that
no,
people are
Yep.
given. And then because you get depressed, then they give you the drug to handle the depression. And then you
Right.
get the drug to handle the drug that handle the depression.
right.
and think
know,
about
My
what-
dad never had too many things that he took.
Well, there
And
were
then when I
children
got
who had-
around, I got him on less because we go to the doctor. I said, well, but he takes this. So does he need that? Oh, okay. And so they liked it when I came in because they had no clue. They were just doing their job and getting paid and didn't bother to see what, the other doctors were doing. I said, well, he's already taken it. So I would go home and I'd look it up. I would
Yeah.
tell my dad what it did and what it was for. And he said, oh, I don't think I need that. And I would look and make sure it was okay, or if he could take off, how to take him off of it and whatever. But
Yeah,
he still had some things he took. But there are people that you see, elderly people that have handfuls
oh,
of
so many.
medicine.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that right there would make my my stomach sick. I was like,
Well, my wood cutting buddy down the road, he's an or was an Adventist, I should say, or whatever. But he tells me now he takes 14 drugs in the morning and then another 10 in the evening. Yeah.
wow.
And
isn't that sad?
yeah, and he's trying to get off of them. And some days he tells me, I skipped my drugs today and I feel better than ever. And I said, well, what does that tell you?
Yep.
my uncle was on, I forgot how many, but he was on a bunch of meds. And he decided to take himself off everything but 4. And he did a lot better than he did
Yep.
when he was
Yeah.
taking
But
all
again,
those
you have to
others.
be careful which ones you just stop.
Yeah.
That's true
Exactly.
too. But he cut his own self down and he did a lot better without the
Yep.
ones that
Yeah.
Mark,
I
were
know
you
when I-
saying
when I-
something?
When I
Yes, I'm
worked
going to
in-
say something, and I'm going to tell you right now, as far as the so-called coronavirus, so-called deadly vaccine and all that. Thankfully, I never took the thing at all. No, 1, 2, nothing. And I will tell you
Yeah.
why. When I had a chance to, when they finally opened up some of the Adventist congregations after 2 years or whatever, because it was all shut down and so forth, then they needed you to take your temperature, sign in,
Yeah.
sign a form saying this and that, and I actually saw some of this where you had to they put on your head. I don't know what that was, and they wanted you to get a cloth and wipe your table and chair where you
Yeah.
were sitting and all that.
Yeah,
I think it was.
that's
I mean, I believe in sanitation cleaning.
You had to
but
wait,
not
you
that
had to
kind.
wait
That
to
was
be
too much.
seated. Yep, you
Yeah.
had to wait to be seated. I remember that and,
That
I
was
think back
horrible.
on it, even then I thought this is really stupid. But if
I
you
went
stop
to-
and think back on it and remember how they, made sure at all these restaurants, everywhere you went, you had to have your temperature taken, you had to have this. And I'm
That's
like,
right.
what is it different now? I mean, I could have something nobody would know and,
Right.
Yeah.
go spit on somebody. I mean, it's insane. It
When
was
I go and
absolutely
see-
insane.
when I go and see Violet, I have to look into this little thing and it does a facial recognition. And it also says what your
Makes your
temperature is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it says, are you being quarantined or do you have cough? And then it says, and I put no, then it says, now you can go see Violet.
Wow.
But see, that one I can kind of agree with, only because it's not, it may have started with it, but people carry a lot of things in, and when you're in one of those places, you're pretty weak. So you
Yeah.
don't want them to get something, but
well, and a
this
lot of
other
people,
one, when they did that at the restaurant, and then all the 6 foot, in some places they were put in there permanent, so I see them in the cement, or
Yeah.
the tiles, and it still says,
Mm.
keep your 6 feet, and I'm like, that
Mhm.
was so insane when they had that, and I would just walk up to people, and people would freak, I'm like, come on, please.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
But we
I
still
was one
have
of
a
those
lady. I
rebels.
almost ran her down this morning. I was going out to get a load of firewood. This is a lady that's about a mile down the road. And every morning she brings her dogs down here to walk. She has a mask on. She's all by herself and gloves to walk her dog. And I'm going, this lady must be paranoid. And I
But
saw
isn't
Doesn't
that
like
sad
the
that
fright.
people's,
Yeah,
it's
the
sad
Doesn't
that
fright.
like
people's
fresh
minds
air.
do that,
Yeah,
where they
Yeah.
must,
Yeah, but-
they're the ones that are gonna die like in the stories.
yeah.
Because they're so worried and so paranoid and it's like,
Well, she freaked out when I pulled my truck out and I had to get by her dog. She actually pushed herself into the woods.
Oh
She
my,
backed up into the woods. And I'm going, lady, I'll get around you. Don't worry. But I think it was
well,
she was trying to get
maybe
close to the
though,
car.
maybe she has some kind of deadly allergy or something's wrong with her.
Yeah,
I mean,
something
you
mentally, I'm
never
sure.
know, and maybe
Yeah.
there's something that could, maybe there's
She's out
something
by
wrong there.
herself. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, it's
but
not like.
maybe there's stuff in the air that can get her. I don't know. But you
Yeah,
see
but-
people in cars too by themselves and they have them on, and I'm like, please.
oh yeah, in the cars driving, I'm
Yeah,
like,
but not
"Oh,
only that, some people don't care what they have. They'll still go to work, go to school, go to the store, or whatever. They don't care who they give it to or how many they give it to. Because a lot of people just plain don't care.
Yeah.
People didn't get it from people walking around. It was like any cold or any flu season that goes around.
I'm
And
just
it was
talking
a
about
bad one when it
things in
got in certain
general.
areas, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway. All
Yeah, I
right, you
wasn't
guys.
talking about any one particular thing. I'm just talking about things in general. They don't care what it is. They don't care how many people they spread it to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keith, does that doctors having to practice Western medicine apply where you are, or is it just local here?
For which?
Well,
there's
they have
no-
to practice Western medicine. They can't use herbs and stuff here.
Oh, you can go to a homeopathic doctor.
Yeah,
Somebody like Dr. Casey. That's what he was practicing like.
yeah, you have to go to.
In other words, the
There-
fact
there's-
that
There's
uh,
a lot of them, but they're not but the medical society does not look on them, with a positive.
And
thing.
usually they don't take insurance.
but
Oh.
in other
Right.
words, the fact that they have to practice Western medicine only is just local here. It's not.
Well, I don't
that's
even know if
for
it's
any
local. It's
doctor
just,
that
that's what your
takes
doctor said.
insurance. Any
Yeah,
No,
that's
no,
doctor,
my
probably what-
doctor's not the one that said it, but they're not allowed. You can't get an herbal doctor in Bakersfield. It's not allowed.
I don't know about that. It was when I was there, so I don't know what
naturopath-
changed.
naturopath doctors will give you herbs.
What?
There's a lot of
functional
naturopathic
medicine-
places.
Functional medicine doctors,
Yeah,
but none of them take insurance.
right. That's the main part. They can't be insured like regular doctors, so.
Right. Because they wouldn't give the drugs.
When I
Right.
worked out the prison 15 years ago, we had a family nurse practitioner that was working as like a PA out there. And when she had her own practice, which was in Los Angeles, she was working as a herbal, practitioner. She had her own clinic and stuff, but she
And you can go to
did not
some-
prescribe stuff like that when she was in the prison.
You can go to some that will treat you that way if, you request it and they don't
Yeah.
like to get things. As like Sarah's a doctor, but she tries very hard to keep things natural when she tells people and tries to do things without giving a lot of drugs, but sometimes, you have to, or they're taking
Well,
something, but
Just like Ellen White said in here, we want instant cures. We don't want to take time. Well, it'll take you 3 weeks of rest and recovery.
Yeah.
I don't have that time. Give me a pill.
And herbal
Right, yeah.
medicines take more time than
Yeah.
Yes,
than
it
the
does.
drugs.
Yeah,
But the
Yes,
drugs
it does.
don't cure you.
yeah.
right. And the drugs do it quickly and you can continue your life, but
Right.
the other stuff, you have to not only spend time to do it, you have to spend time and watch what you eat, which who does that? You have to spend
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
everything you do. So it's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
why you need to be out in the country and not have big things to worry about and
You
buy
have
some
to do
cows and horses and just enjoy them and let them kiss you.
all
you'll
the
be all
all the
happy.
laws of health you need to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
All
that
right,
is,
we'll get a place up here and George and Barb, you can come up here and teach us how to live
yeah,
and groom things and bring your little honeybees.
yeah.
Believe it or not, I was out, I've been, if you're a history buff, this week I was practicing Ronald Reagan's therapy. I don't know if you're a history buff, but his big thing was going out and cutting brush, and I spent all week cutting brush.
Oh, is
And I
it?
was back by my beehives, and one of the beehives had bees going in and out. And I don't know
Oh,
where they came
So
from our
all
house.
of a
So
sudden we have.
all of
some
a sudden, we
bees.
got some more bees, and I go, okay, cool. I gave them some.
so did you talk to them? You
Yeah,
need to play
he
music,
fed them.
put
I
music
fed
out
them.
there.
I
He
fed them
fed
some
them.
syrup. I put some syrup in there, and I go,
Good.
we'll see what
And
happens.
give them water. They need water. They
Yeah.
Maybe
just
they'll stay,
take
maybe they
care of them.
won't. But
Yeah.
yeah,
They're
that's.
gonna, they're gonna come out here one day and I'm gonna talk to them, so
Yeah, okay.
I advise you to be good to them. Say, no, go back and
Okay,
bite.
yeah, and that survey did
smart.
not include eating jelly beans that Reagan was known for.
No.
You talk,
Yeah,
No.
Certainly
right
not.
on
I
that.
understand.
Exactly. Sugar content, no. His recreation on his ranch was always going out and cutting brush. And I
Yeah.
spent, what,
Well, that
2 or
was
3
good.
days
Thank you.
cutting brush this
And he
week.
did do a lot of things outside, and that's a, you know,
I hauled so much
I doubt
brush.
real true cowboys were really sick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All the stuff they did and the cow ranchers and all that stuff, they, you know,
yeah, they weren't sick, they would just get injured.
yeah,
I had so
right.
much brush this week, and this morning the township came by and mulched it all. And I go,
Oh,
I put it piled up. I said, Barb said, do they ever wonder what you do? Because I pile up mulch or brush at least twice a year, maybe 3 times a year
I
out
said,
there.
they just keep wondering, where do you keep?
Where do I get it all? And it's just from our back 40. I was clearing paths for mowing. I hadn't cleared them for a year or two, and I said, and it's been 90 degrees, but I'm out there at 6:30 in the morning or 7:30 or whatever, cutting brush
wow.
before it gets really hot.
Yeah, because our feel like temperatures have been over 100.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
It-
high.
it-
And
it
what'd
is-
you cut it with?
Chainsaw?
See, and that could be dangerous too, because that's
Oh,
hot
yeah.
and sparks and
No,
fire, so you be
not
careful.
here.
Nah, it's too
No.
moist. It feels like
We
100
have-
too because the
Yeah,
humidity is at
the dew on the
90%.
grass in the morning is thick.
Our humidity has been so horrible.
I
Yeah.
remember being in North Carolina and Chris went out in the back, scared this mother to death, as it doesn't seem to take too much to do that. But anyway, all of a sudden I see him out there and he's lighting fires. And I'm like, excuse me, what are you doing? I said, you don't have any hose, you don't have, it's fine, Mom, really, they're all wet. And I'm like, if they were wet, they wouldn't be burning. Well, but it's just what they do here and everybody does it. And I'm
All
like, is that where they
burn.
get the Smoky Mountains? And he said, no. It's like, but I said, this is crazy. And he did it. And sure enough, it smelled good, but they burned it and then it went down. And
They
if
Control-
it kind of go off somewhere, he
Controlled
would, but
burns, yeah.
yeah. And it was like, but
When I
that
was
was
on the
scary
fire
to me
department,
because I'm
we
used to
used to do that.
California and I'm like, you don't do that out there.
No,
But
In
he
California, in the San Joaquin Valley, when you burn everything, all the smoke goes down to Bakersfield.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I always wondered how cool of a summer we'd have if it wasn't for all the fires around us.
Did you see Dean Farrell, how close he was to the fire?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
how-
some of it, yeah.
I mean, it was so close to him. Wow.
That's Ron Spear's old house.
Yeah,
Close
there's
to
different
who?
weird fires everywhere, all over, but, and there, one other thing that I saw, I know the first thing we saw was like the Texas with the camps and stuff, that flooding.
Oh,
But they've had like 3 or 4 other places, and was it somewhere else this morning? They just showed it
Another
running,
one that
New
was
York,
flooding.
yeah.
New
New
York.
York is having flooding too, yeah.
And maybe they had before, but it just seems like all of a sudden there's like 4 or 5 states that have certain areas that are
Those
just
are the storms
flooding
that
up to
miss
the neck of
us.
the car.
Even
Hmm?
tonight, we were under a big warning. And I looked right before we came on, I went out and the walk was a little wet.
We missed all the.
And I looked
yeah.
on the radar and it went right around us into Indiana and it'll head up toward
We
New
haven't
York.
gotten any rain.
We got, barely a dusting of, rain.
See, God put you where you should be.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
know that. That's a proven fact with all that we've been through with tornadoes and everything else now. I've
That's
always
how
said this was,
Terabella was. We were pretty safe there, but
I always said this was God's property and he'll take care of us. And
yep.
we've been good
This,
so
this is
far.
Mark here. It's just started raining here in Baltimore. They were talking about a flood alert. So just now. So I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
Yep. I saw yours in Baltimore. It was New York and somewhere in Baltimore. that had flooding just a couple days ago.
Yes, oy vey. Yes, it's been raining like this the whole week
And our
Wow.
creek is
at
dry.
night.
Our creek
Well, you
doesn't
be-
even have water in it right now. It's
Or it will
dry.
get no water.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you be safe, Mark.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Uh,
All right, you guys. Well, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
Anybody that's out there listening to us, I hope you enjoyed our little extra conversation.
If they're
And we'll
still
see
with us.
everybody Sabbath. We have
Hey,
Abel
Abel,
and
did you
Brent.
like this meeting, Abel? Let us know Sabbath.
He speaks Sabbath, him and Brent. So
Uh,
Okay.
we'll see everybody
Okay.
again.